So we're not really clear whether Judah and Kaf, whether the I was saying something or seeking to say something, just saying, making a statement on it, or were more specifically trying to make a certain specific point. Yes, we can go to the wiki on this, but let's just deal with the I am once again. And I give thanks for you. I give thanks that you mentioned the I am, because though we have addressed it briefly before, we do need to get deeper into the overstanding of the I am. So let's call this right here. This is still under the knowledge. You understand, the knowledge of JAH. You know what I'm saying? And what better way to gain the knowledge of Yah or of JAH but by dealing with the name of JAH. So let's deal with this as the I am, right? The I am, right? The I am lesson, right? The I am lesson. Now Exodus, right? Exodus 3:14. Now 3:14 is called the golden mean ratio. I always like to say, well, compare CF, confer in the so-called Latin, but you see that in academic books, the CF, compare that with Revelation 3:14. You know, like we say, do the math, do the math. Now, in Exodus 3:14, it says, HA-SHEM. HA-SHEM. Now, what does HA-SHEM or HA-SHER HA-SHER. Now, Asher is a very interesting word. Let's say that in Psalms 1, where it says, "Blessed is the man," it says Asher Ha'ish. Some would tell you, oh, that's a different Asher, but Asher actually connect with Ausar, right? Ausar, and of course Ausar or Ausar, Asher is referring to or connected with, in some teachings, Osiris. You know what I'm saying? Osiris. And in the overstanding in Rastafari revelation, Osiris in that context, the original, is the biblical Abel or Hebel or Abel. So actually Osiris is Abel, and Abel in the sense, according to the eschatological, would be likened on a certain level to that lamb who was slain from the beginning, from the foundation of the earth. Even Christ, when he says to those religionists, Jewish religionists, like we say to the so-called Christian and even Jewish religionists today, we say, you know, that ye of your father the devil. You understand? For he was a what? A murderer from the beginning. A murderer. That's another point about the Gnostics as well. The Gnostics, who modern Christians would defame and blaspheme and say all manners of evil against them falsely because of Joshua's namesake. Think about it. The so-called Orthodox Christians or the Catholic Christians or the Roman Christians, they persecuted and killed these people for what? Because they were criminals? Because they were committing crimes or violence against human? No, because of what was in their hearts and their minds, because of their faith. And Christ did say that they shall kill many of you and think that they do what? They do the service of the Almighty. Now, the thing about the JAH and the, you know, or the Yah, the Yahweh, or the I am particular matter. When we look in this particular area of scripture in 3:14 of Exodus, it says, I am that I am, right? And he said, thus shalt thou say to the children of Israel, I am hath sent me to you. All right? That's what it says there, correct? So please show me, where did Moses ever say, I am have sent me to you? Can you show me somewhere in the book of Exodus where Moses says that? Because it says in 3:14, because your comment, you know, the I am that I am, brought me and you out of Egypt, really, he is who he is. But I'm kind of giving it away right there. Now, see, we're going to connect this with the linguistics. So in order to go to the higher school of this particular study on the I am, one would have to at least know their basic two twos. You know what your basic two twos are? Your aleph to tav, you understand, or your aleph to tau or tau. You have to know your Hebrew ABCs. Let us put it like that. It's very important. If you want to learn your Hebrew ABCs, just study Psalm 119. Psalm 119 is what they call an acronistic. That means it's aligned, every 8 verses is aligned with, has a Hebrew, is assigned like a Hebrew letter. You understand? A Hebrew glyph, a Hebrew letter, and there's 22. You understand? There's 22. And I make that point because unless you're able to comprehend the linguistics, you get lost, like the Gentiles have done, in translation. And this is what is still kind of, this is the Jordan River for a lot of the brothers, a lot of you brothers and sisters, is really mastering, you understand, mastering at least the Fidel. First you start out with the alphabet before you can even go into any really other level of study. So with us, in our studies, it's going to be very important for one to know the Hebrew. You understand? And then we're talking the basic Hebrew. So if we wrote a letter up here, one should be able to know by sight and recognition exactly what that letter is, what the name of that letter is, and what the sound of that letter is. See, by learning the 22 of the Hebrew, that will help you learn the 11 more, the 33 of the Royal Amharic. And the Masons say that there's 33 degrees. Well, of course, they adapted that or adopted that or co-opted that from the Ethiopic. You understand? From the master that sits in the east. You understand? The true master that sits in the east. But please show me, once again, back to the question right here in 3 and 14. Wikipedia, you say it's on Wikipedia, right? You say, well, you know, but your comment was that this is so well known. Is it? Just because they have a lot of writing on it, is it really so well known? Well, please, see, there's something that's getting lost among folks. People say, well, I am that I am. God said to Moses, I am that I am. And then God said to Moses, thus shall thou, you, Moses or Moshe, say to the Bnei Yisrael, I am hath sent me to you. Please show me where Moses says, children of Israel, I am have sent me to you. I'm not being facetious or whatever people want to call it. I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm trying to awaken your mind, you understand, to a point and to a principle. Because if you get this point and principle, you won't stumble over other points and principle. But if you miss this point and principle, then everything that you think you know will only serve to confuse you, basically. And this is not me. This is the principle teaching. And this is basic precept upon precept. You understand? Line upon line. You know, proper masonry, proper building. You understand? Proper building. Because we're told that we are to be witnesses and co-laborers. You understand? Witnesses and co-laborers. Well, if we are co-laborers, that means we are co-builders. But how can you be a co-builder if you can't even add or, measure an inch? You see, you have to be able to measure, you be able to measure. You have to be able to use your tools. You understand? And the first and the major tool, you understand, is the mind, is the heart and the mind. Those are the first, the basic tools. That's your compass and your square, really, the heart and the mind. I know they might not tell you it in some of these knockoff counterfeit lodges, but, we're going to the root. We're going to the truth. It's the one from above that has shown us these things, because we're born again from above. So please show me where the I am is found. Now here, I'm actually looking in the Hebrew. I'm looking the Hebrew right here. And basically he says, let's see, where is it? Where it says Ko, is that Ko right there? Bo, all right. He says Tomar le B'nai Yisrael yeah, right? Yeah, shalachani alei kem. In other words, that's the part in your Bibles where it says that, and you shall say to the children of Israel that yeah. Let me show you something right here. Yeah. So let's write this in like the Hebrew-ish. You understand? Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Right? So this would be the A, this will be a H, this will be a Y, and this will be a H. Right? Taking out the vowels, right? Yeah. Right? Or Aleph, Hey, Yod. Let's make the Yod a little bit, because the Yod is like that. The Yod is like that right there. And Hey. So this will be Aleph, A, Hey, H, Yod, Y, Hey, H. Now remember, this is read from right to left, and not like we read from left to right. Now, don't get so caught up on the directions. Once you know what language you're reading, you'll know what direction to read it in. All right? Now, this means right here, let's do it like this. This means right here, I am. All right? So, show me, or first show yourself. You understand? First find it. Find when Moses is speaking to the children of Israel, and he says to them, yeah. You see, what Elohim says, and here it says, Yomar Elohim, in other words, and Elohim said, al Moshe, he said to Moses, yeah, ASHER, or AHA. See, some will say AHAYAH. Some say AHAYAH. You know, I see in your transliteration, you basically say AHAYAH, putting a aleph in here. But if you look at the pointing is not that. The pointing is a schwa. A schwa means that sound stops. Now, when we look into the Amharic, this becomes so very easy to understand and to really even overstand. Because when we look into the Amharic, we have the root of Hiwet, HAWEH, AHYAHWH, or Ihuh, you understand? Ihuh. And then we understand that the Jews' pointing of this with the schwa is correct. But after all, why wouldn't it be correct? Since they looked at the Ethiopic, the Gu'is, to help them read the Masoretic and the biblical Hebrew, but they just haven't given credit to the Ethiopic, but they use it secretly, just like they stole all those manuscripts and scrolls from the Philashas that they brought to Israel. Operation Solomon had a whole plane of them. The Beit Israel and Israel have been complaining about that even to this very day. And those manuscripts from Ethiopia, from the black Jews of Ethiopia, are often like the Hebrew University and the other Jewish and so forth and so on universities, and the people whose property that is, it has not been returned to them. Think about that for a moment. But if the Gu'is and the Ethiopic manuscripts don't have much significance, why do they steal them and then hide them for years until they feel confident that they know everything about it and can explain it? You know, that should be a obvious. That should be a, I won't say a no-brainer. That should be a mindfulness. Your mind should be full of the truth of what's contained in that. But you cannot show, basically, let's cut to the chase. You cannot show that Moses literally says, EHAYAH has said, EHAYAH has said. Now, some would say, well, it sounds a lot like Yahweh or Yah. It does. But notice the only part that's like Yah is the ending part of it right here. You see, with this Aleph here, this Aleph here makes it first person. Makes it first person. Moses, in good faith, could not go to see, he understood this. A lot of us don't, because we're not really born again or approaching it from a born again consciousness. When we approach it now, being born again from a born again consciousness, it makes sense. Elohim is showing him in the first person that I am that I am. But now when you go to them, tell them that I am has sent you. So when Moses went and spoke to the Bnei Yisrael, guess what he said? He said, YHWH, YHWH. Notice something about it too. The way I'm gonna go with the eyes with your, I guess you got this from the Wikipedia, right? Right here you have right? EHAYAH, right? ASHER, right? I gotta make this a little bit right there. All right, we know this is basically, right? What's interesting is that if you look at this part and the Yah right here, you have Yah and you have Yah, right? When you look at Yahweh, right, Yah, when you look at Yahweh and you break it down, Yahweh broken down basically is Yahweh, which means and, right? Contracting the yod, the next yod, it becomes, the yod is like the Y right there, and then we have this contracted as YHWH, YHWH, which is another way of basically saying he is, or he who lives, he who is the living one and the living one, the one who is and the one who is, he. While in the first person, Elohim speaking in the first person said, Ahyah or EHAYAH, EHAYAH, I am the one who's living. So the root of this word, I am, comes from the Afro-Shemitic or the Ethiopic to live, to be, being. You know what I'm saying? Being. And the construction of that in the first person is basically in the good is one and the same as the Hebrew, which helps us to fully cipher, you know what I'm saying, or use our compass and square scripturally, you know what I'm saying, to get the balance. You know what I'm saying, to get the balance. And I make that mention because if you now representing he who is who he is, he who said, EHAYAH, EHAYAH. Then you go around saying, well, EHAYAH, EHAYAH. Guess what you kind of in a sense do? You blaspheme. I know that's kind of, a lot of folks be like, no, that can't be so. But you never find this being said by any of the prophets or at all. Now, what you find is that Yeshua, he used this form right here when he said, I am. This is why he's the only one who used that first person form just as it was in Exodus 3:14. Because in Revelation 3:14, this is the divine mathematics, you find something very interesting written. He says, I am the Amen. Amen. That sounds like some Egyptian stuff. I know we say Amen, but he says he is the Amen. But I thought we say Amen. But the root of Amen is faithful and true witness. But then we find he's the beginning. He is the beginning of the creation of God. But wait, Doesn't Amen, even in ancient Egypt, means the hidden one? This is why he was in the world and created, but the world did not know him, the true one. Instead, the world worshipped the fallen archon, you understand, known as Satan, the devil, who made himself a god, you understand, and who pretended to be the Father whom he was ignorant of, and thus we have kind of an overstanding of why the Gnostics say, you understand, that the so-called demiurge is Yahweh. Not that the demiurge is the true Yahweh, but the demiurge saith that he is Yahweh. And see, we're going to have to get into the prophets too. Because the prophets speak about this one, you know, the parable, I think it's in, I think this same character, it's like Babylon. You know how Babylon, she sits there and says, here I sit, a queen, and there is no other, so forth and so on. You see that kind of language coming up, not the Almighty speaking that, but a false impersonation, you know what I'm saying, of the deity speaking that they are that being that was revealed to Moses. But guess what? They're not that one. You see, it's Moses who figured it out. It's Moses who ciphered it and reconnected it to the root and the truth. And when he came out of Egypt, the Egyptian priesthood, you understand, had already split and divided from the original Yahweh, you understand, into a latter-day apostasy. It's similar to Christianity. What happened in Christianity? We know we have Yeshua, you understand? And we have the early apostles, so forth and so on. And then all of a sudden the script gets flipped. You understand? His image is whitewashed. His name is blasphemed. You understand? Instead of people living in his way and showing the fruit of his nature, they show the fruit of the devil in his name. This is why you have Christians killing Christians. Think about it for a moment. You know, when you look at the history of the so-called Vatican, this kind of going to link and maybe dovetail into what another viewer had actually spoke about on this particular action about the Vatican and New Age and the Masons and so forth and so on. Before we get into that, we just want to deal with the foundation right here. So, the I am. Now, what is the big lesson of the I am? This book has a beautiful and metaphysical and scriptural, and it's a good study and even a better meditation when we want to look at the I am. When we're dealing with the whole teaching, you understand, of the I am. Now let me see if I can find this right here in this particular book. It might be under the name of JAH or Jehovah. Yeah, we'll actually have a teaching under I am, under I, on page 291. And please, brothers and sisters, listen to this, hear this. This is from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. It's a very important tool right here, Charles Fillmore. You understand? Along with this book, we have it at our website for free download. You know, there's a PDF copy you can utilize and use that to study different names in the Bible and get a little better, you understand, understanding of what these names mean in the context. Because what happens a lot of times, we read the Bible from a 2012 confusion, and we can't really get what it was saying then, and then we begin to interpolate it instead of interpretate it in context, you know. So we're taking the real, but we're applying it falsely because we are in a false world, a false reality. So this is why we have to ground ourselves with the truth. But here it says, I am. I am is God's name in man. I am. So in man, this is his name. But now if you're going to speak about this one, this is why Moses, instead of saying EHAYAH, he said Yahweh. The same root, but one saying I am, the other one saying he is. You understand? So I am is God's name in man. It is, they have Jehovah or YHWH or Yahweh or YHWH, Yod Hey Vah the indwelling Christ, the indwelling Christos. I want you to keep that idea of indwelling as well as the divine within, because it will now connect with the right faith, the Itaimenot of Ethiopia, of Tobia, of Ethiopia. You understand the Tawahido, we call it Tawahido, the indwelling Christos, the true spiritual man, to say the heavenly man, to say the blue Jesus, you understand, whom God, Elohim, made in his image and likeness. The outer manifest man is the offspring of the I am, or inner spiritual man. So now the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary is teaching us that the I am is really the what? It is the inner spiritual man. By use of I am. And how do we use I am? Not running around and people say, I am. No, that's ego. That's how people fall off on ego. But in your prayers, in your spiritual meditations, understanding this foundation here, by use of I am, we, I, we link ourselves with outer seemings, or we make conscious union. Conscious. See, this is the key. To make conscious union. Like when the King of Kings teaches us to make our wills obedient to good influence. We make a conscious, we're proactive, conscious union with the Father, with Spirit, with abiding life, wisdom, love, peace, substance, strength, power, truth, for capital Tau, capital T, the kingdom of the heavens within us. So the kingdom of the heavens within us, this is the tree, what they call in the Zohar and the Kabbalah, is the tree of life. With that tree of life, which is the kingdom of the heavens within us. The I am always assures us that the preponderance of power of HAILE is with the spiritual. The King of Kings also teaches this in the speech on religion, that he speaks on. Really, we don't have a word in Ethiopic for religion. We use the word hymenot. Hymenot is often translated forcibly as religion, but it means living almanot, living faith, or the idea from faith to faith, from amen to amen. It says that the I am always assures us that the preponderance of power is with the spiritual. So the preponderance of power is with what? The spiritual, not with the material. You understand? Not with the earthly or the worldly, but with the spiritual and with the heavenly. Fear throws dust in our eyes and hides the mighty spiritual forces that are always with us. So we have the connection with the mighty spiritual forces already within us. But see, the world has us focused so much outside of ourselves. In other words, the exoteric instead of the esoteric, right? The exo instead of the eso. Blessed are those who deny ignorance and fear. Blessed are those who deny. As we say, Satan ikadhalo. I deny Satan, which is basically another way of overstanding ignorance and fear, and affirm the presence and the power of the I am. So we confirm that presence and power of EHAYAH within. You see, EHAYAH saying I am in that sense. This is why the message says we are. You understand? We are one. Speaks in the we sense. You know, so the I am must be affirmed. The presence and the power. They behold the mountain. What's the mountain? Mountain is symbol of kingdom, but also of exaltation. You can even picture the pyramid in a sense as that mountain. Full of horses, powerful forces, the horses of judgment, the four horses of the apocalypse, apocalypse, right? Which are powerful forces, full of horses, and chariots of fire. What's a chariot of fire? These are these life energies, the chariots of fire. So what it's going to speak about, and this is drawn here from 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 8 to 23. This, we'll read it. Please take it down. 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 8 to 23. So the chariots of fire, the life energies, round about Elisha. Round about Elisha. Now, Elisha in this context is the spiritual I am. Now, who was Elisha? Elisha, he was the disciple, in a sense like the understudy, but more correctly, the disciple of Eliyahu, of Elias, of Elijah. He was the disciple of Elijah. Remember when Elijah went up in the cloud, or went up in the chariot of fire? You understand? And the mantle that was passed on to Elisha, and then Elisha put on that mantle. Now, there's that connection with John the Baptist where he came in the spirit. He didn't say he came and reincarnated. It said he came in the spirit of Eliyahu. He came in the spirit of Elijah. Now, even Elijah is a name that needs to be studied. You know, you need to really study it, because when you take these ideas into your heart and your mind, if you take them into it ignorantly, they basically either have no effect or they have an ill effect. You understand? Or they can be defective. You understand? Now, the I am can also be explained, or the EHAYAH, you understand, or the EHAYAH can also be explained as the metaphysical above the physical. Now, some people, they knock against the metaphysical. Oh, that's that New Age stuff. But think about it for a moment. If these people are so-called Christian and they regard the Bible as being true, but now you're getting some funny stuff. People say they're Christian, but they don't check for the Bible. I'm like, so where do you get that from? Anyway, the metaphysical would say the spiritual or the heavenly. There's a physical, and meta means above the physical. You understand? The I am can be explained as the metaphysical name of the spiritual self, as distinguished from the sensate self, or the self that is subject to feelings, emotion, moods, and attitudes. You understand? One is governed by God, or by JAH, by Elohim. One is governed by truth. The other by self. You see, so we have to recognize the spiritual self of the EHAYAH is governed by, notice when it says it's governed. It's not having warm, fuzzy religious feelings. No. It's being governed. For example, you ever drive a car, you understand, or ride a bike, and when you want to turn left, you turn left. You want to turn right, you turn right. Now imagine you driving and you want to turn left, but the car is going right, or you want to turn left and you turn the wheel and it doesn't turn, it keeps going straight, and then you try it again and then it turns. When you try to stop and say, wait, I cannot govern this car. And I don't think you'll be driving your family, your kids, your children, or loved ones, or yourself around in such a car that was ungovernable. So the same is with the I am. You understand? He's not going to take up residence, as he says, I will be their God and dwell with them and dwell in them in a conscious way. Because we have life, he's already there. You understand? But not in a conscious way. Ones are unconscious. You understand? Are unconscious. So one, the spiritual self, is governed by JAH, is governed by Yah. To say, is governed by we say Yah outwardly, but meditatively within, we know it's EHAYAH, our spiritual self. Because if you do it opposite otherwise, just like a lot of folks you see getting caught up into ego. You know what I'm saying? Getting caught up into ego. You know, the other one, the sensate self, is governed by self. In other words, do what thou wilt. And there we can see the distinction. You understand? Thy will be done on earth as it is in the heavens, right? The Shemayim, the Semayat. While the other one says, do what makes you happy. You know what I'm saying? Just do you. Do you, nigga. Just do you. You understand the, you know what I'm saying? You understand the difference? In other words, it's like Moses said to the people, I put before you two ways, life and death. You know what I'm saying? Choose you this day who you will serve. Oh, I don't serve nobody. That means you already chose wrong. Plain and simple, you already chose wrong. You know, and just time will tell, or show and tell. Now, Christ, the Moshiach, HaMoshiach, or the Mashiach, is the scriptural name for the spiritual I am. It's the scriptural name. Christ is the name we find in the scriptures, in the books, right? We find in the scripture Christos, because that is the scriptural name for the spiritual EHAYAH or AHYAH, or the Yalanaya Minor, the inner name, the I am. Now, Yeshua, Joshua, he called it, what did Joshua call this reality? He called it Abba, Father. He said, Father. It is the Abba, it is the Father of the personal will. And a conscious, not an unconscious, not a maybe schmaybe, but it's a conscious unity between the two. It's a conscious unity between the two that must finally be made to preserve or to keep the oneness of creation. You know, in reading the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and I think that that's really necessary, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, even in understanding this book. Because this book has a lot of interesting stuff, but, you know, for different people, depends on your preparedness. You know, this could really, I would say study it, but don't rush off on assumptions. You understand? Don't rush off on assumptions. You see, because a lot of these things can be explained once one has a good foundation and groundation. So we learn that it is the I am, the EHAYAH, you understand, the AHYAH, it is the Abba of the personal will, and a conscious unity between the two must finally, this is what our discipline discipleship is about, bringing this finally to be made to preserve the oneness of the new creation, of the true creation. You know, I used to wonder why did even His Majesty and others from an Ethiopic perspective refer to Jesus Christos as our blameless creator. Because He has created a new creation, the true creation. And so we are in the world, but we're not of the world. We've been born again from the Semayat, from the Shemayim, out of the blue. In other words, we've come out of the blue, out of the heavens, right? That is what is meant by the phrase, quote, he that doeth the will of my Father. I think that's John chapter 7, if I'm correct, chapter 7, where he speaks about he that doeth the will of my Father, he will know of who the teachings are, like whether I'm just speaking of myself, you understand, or whether this is truly the Father, the Father's teaching, the Father's word, the Father's way, and the Father's life. Let's see right here. 7:17. If any man, John 7:17, if any man will do his will, not do what thou will, that's a trick of the enemy. That's a trick of the hater. And you know what the hater hates? The hater hates the divine spark in you. So the hater makes you believe that he's telling you do what you will. Get all into self. Get all into ego. You understand? Because the hater hates you. But Joshua loves I, so he tells us the truth. And we also love our brothers and sisters because we put our life on the line to speak, to tell, to manifest the same truth. If any man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, not the dogma, not dogma. Dogma come from Rome. We're speaking about the doctrine, the teaching, the Amharic, right? He shall know of Joshua's Talmud, his teaching, whether it be of Elohim, whether it be of God, if you please, or whether I speak of myself. That's John chapter 7, verse 17. So that comes as Amorit, disciples, take a note of that, and meditate on that right there. He that doeth the will of my Father. We must do the very will of God, of Elohim, in our will. We must do his will in and through our will, which is virtually to surrender. That means to surrender the whole man, spirit, soul, and body, in that order, to Ha-Elohim, to the true God and Father of our blue master and medicine, Yeshua HaMoshiach. Spiritual character is the rock foundation of being. Do you get that? Spiritual character. There's a lot of characters. See, when we talk about Christ and his kingly, it is what? His kingly character. You know what I'm saying? Having a spiritual character is the what? The rock foundation. So we need a foundation, but, all foundations are not able to sustain the edifice. That's what we hear about all these construction disasters and so forth and so on, all these whack-ass masons. You know what I mean? Because they don't even know how to square. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to cipher. They just after money. They just want to get paid at the end of the day. So they're doing sloppy work because their current is the love of money. Our current is true spirituality, is the truth. Spiritual character is the rock foundation of being. Now notice the word being. We already explained this briefly in the further lesson, the older lesson we've taught on it. So you can look on some of the older lessons concerning the I am. Search it in I videos, and we go over it, and we even show, I think in the video from Ethiopic grammar by Dillman, the actual Ethiopic, root. YHWH. And the last one right here is not a hey, but it's actually a vav or a wow. Now we'll get to explain that, but the root idea, it's dealing with being. The root of ehyah or ahyah is being, in the sense of, so you could translate that I being. I am living, living being. But now in the English, we call it I am, quote, end quote, right? I am. Now, spiritual character is the rock foundation of being. Build yourself into God. Now, see, this is a metaphysical Bible dictionary, right? Now, and I've mentioned that a couple of times, but a metaphysical Bible dictionary, the first printing of this was 1931. Now, do you get anything by that date right there? How closely related to another very important event that the Babylonian world would like to forget and don't want you to know? And hate you if you know the significance. It's the crowning of the King of Kings, of Christ and his kingly character. So the first printing of this metaphysical Bible dictionary was in 1931, and the copy we have here was the 13th printing from 1995. Yes, the 13th. Wow. The 13th printing. I don't know what number they're up to right now. But now what's so interesting about this particular book right here, it is strictly a biblical and Christian based, Judeo-Christian based book that gives basically the definitions from a metaphysical perspective. But if you have any inkling of the gnosis, you begin to recognize how it connects with everything else that we're saying and everything else that's connected with this truth, including the Gnostic scriptures, or the Gnostic awaki, the awakened, aware perspective, you know what I'm saying, to this reality. You know what I'm saying? Recognizing this holodeck as a holodeck, to be in the world but not of the world, because you recognize the higher things, you recognize the true beginnings, the true origins. And it says to build yourself into God, and you will find yourself in heaven right here on earth. Look at that right there. If you build yourself into God. Now, doesn't Christ say, I've said ye are gods? Now, you hear a lot of folks say, because we say we are gods in training, you know, or we are gods. People say, oh, that's what the New Agers teach, and that's part of the lie of the devil, the tree of Garden of Eden, and these are heathen. You know what I'm saying? Why you learning the ways of the Gentiles? It's bad enough that we already, you know, have learned them. Now unlearn the ways of the Gentile. Learn the way of the King of Kings and his Christ. Learn Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? Or JAH's way. Build yourself into God, and you will find yourself in heaven right here on earth. Let go the little self. Remember, this is written from 1930, or published 1931. Now you hear folks talking about this, Dr. Phil and all these other kind of lecturers and so forth and so on, talking a little like this and a little like that. Hey, this is spiritual, the new age. This is better than that Christian stuff. Well, this book right here is a true Christian book, but how many of your preachers and pastors say, hey, my fellow saints, I want you to get a metaphysical Bible dictionary. You see, why they don't want to do that is because you're going to be spending more of your time building yourself than listening to the nonsense, because you're going to recognize that they're not dealing with this anyway, you understand, unless they happen to get born again. It'll be wonderful for a lot of these so-called lost sheep pastors and preachers to be born again. There's nothing more that we would love to see happen. You know, that would bring, you know, bring the kingdom, you understand, to the earth even much more sooner. And spare a lot of them from hell and destruction and damnation for the follies and the lies, you know, that they have willingly and unwillingly committed. But let go the little self and take hold of the big self. In other words, let go of your little petty so-called selfish self and take hold of Jah self. You know what I'm saying? Of Yah self. Get hold of yourself. Get hold of Jah self. Quote, not my will, but thine be done, end quote. We recall that word of Yeshua, not the baby Jesus, but the man, Yeshua. You know what I'm saying? Because they all like a black man when they, little children. But as they come to manhood, you understand, that's when it gets very, very problematic. The I am of each individual is the will in its highest aspect. Now you have to remember that though a lot of this sounds like New Age so-called, and a lot of the New Agers and even those who deny the King of Kings and his Christ speak this way, recognize the context was connected with. If you take this out of the context of Joshua, of the blue Jesus, you know what I'm saying, of the King of Kings and his Christ, that's when you're gonna run into some occultism, so-called, so to speak. You're gonna run into the other guys, or the goys, not the other guys. You're gonna run into the goys, the guys, the goyim, you know. But this is the Judeo-Christian true foundation, you understand, of even Kabbalah when you recognize it. You don't have to read no funny, strange Kabbalah books, but all you do is study the scripture and study it. Not just to keep reading the Bible, but now study the elements that are found in the reading. Get a better working knowledge. Get gnosis. You know what I'm saying? Become a Gnostic, a Noah, and then you'll be free of a lot of the fear, superstition, and most of all the ignorance. So the I am of each individual is the will in its highest aspect. The will may be said to be the man because it is the directive power that decides the character formation. Did you hear that? The will may be said to be the man because it is the directive power that decides the character formation, which makes what we call individuality, or what I say as indivisible duality, the indivisible duality. Then it says here in parentheses, it says, see Christ, Jesus, Jehovah, and Joshua. Now it's interesting that now we have the I am there, and then it gives us a reference to look up Christ, to look up Jesus, Jehovah, and Joshua. Now in this particular vid and lesson right here, we do not have the time at this time to go into that. We just wanted to lay a basic foundation and to build, for those who already have that basic foundation, to build upon that foundation. But we strongly recommend and encourage you all in going into the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary on those other key words, key names, Christ, Jesus, Jehovah, and Joshua, you know. We'll get into that we're going to stop this vid right here on this particular subject matter. Pause for the cause right here. But this is a little bit on the I am lesson. So it is Yahweh, Yah. You understand? It's Yahweh that freed us out of Egypt, who said of himself, I am that I am. You understand? But the I am as a consciousness, hopefully you can get something out of that metaphysical definition that we have just given. And if you want to get a copy of it, you can go to our website at www.lion of, or you can put Lion of Judah and Society and it'll link, but the simple way is LOJSociety.org. You know what I'm saying? And you click on the studies page, the studies link as well. If you're interested in some of the good books that we have, you can go to the book site, or any comments or even any criticisms. You know what I'm saying? Iron sharpen iron, you know, and scissors cut paper. Anyway, Shalom Rastafari.